Politics Tonight, where we dig and go beyond the headlines. For informed analysis of major political stories in Nigeria, I am Olajumoke Olatunji. President Tinubu assigns portfolios to ministers designates more than over 1 week after they were screened by the Senate. On the interview segment for today, we focus on insecurity as President Tinubu mourns the military officers killed in Niger State with a strategic communications expert and former director of public relations, Nigerian Army, retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka as our guest, as well as the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises, Muda Yusuf, for discussion on Nairo's struggle against the dollar. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Stay with us. We will be right. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. This is Politics Tonight, where we dig beyond the headlines. Now let's bring you some developments in the polity. President Bola Tinubu has assigned portfolios to ministers designates more than 1 week after they were screened by the Senate. The portfolios were announced by the President's office as contained in a statement. Former Governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, was named Minister of the FCT, while Wale Edun was named Minister of Finance and Coordinated Minister of Economy. Others are Minister of Works, David Umahi, Minister of Power, Adedayo Adelabu, Minister of Transportation, Adegwega Oyetola, and Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake. Let's take a break, and when we come back, it will be time to speak with our first guest of the day, who is a strategic communications expert and the former director of public relations, Nigerian Army, retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka, for discussion on insecurity as President Tinubu mourns the military officers killed in Niger State. Please. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now let's get to our interview of the day. I'm joined by a strategic communications expert and former director of public relations, Nigerian Army, retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka, for discussion on insecurity as President Tinubu mourns the military officers killed in Niger State. Thank you so much for joining us, General.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir. So let's begin with the killings of soldiers in an ambush by bandits in Niger State. Now, does this mean that these bandits still pose a great danger to Nigeria?
Come again, I didn't get what you...
I would like us to start with the killings of soldiers in an ambush by bandits in Niger State. So I'm asking, does this mean that these bandits still pose a great danger to Nigeria?
Well, there is no doubt the bandits and kidnappers have always constituted a great concern, especially in the northwest and north central part of this country. And but one other disturbing and worrying thing is the new dimension these things have assumed lately, in the sense that if you have seen the disturbing video, you know, in which they were displaying and, you know, kind of propaganda piece, you will understand that it is beyond banditry or kidnapping, as it were. So there is every likelihood what had been speculated over time because of the concerted effort and tremendous pressure in the northeast. Some of them have relocated to some parts of the north central and possibly northwestern part of this country. So basically, these are some of the issues that we are having. So it is beyond banditry, given what we are seeing now. So therefore, it is really something of a very, very serious concern to each and every one, particularly the security forces in this country.
But apart from the killing of the troops, there was a helicopter crash. How grave is this loss of personnel and equipment to the military?
How do we?
Apart from the killing of the troops, there was a helicopter crash. How grave is this loss of personnel and equipment to the military?
Well, what really happened is a national tragedy, in the sense that we have lost precious lives of one of the very best in the armed forces of Nigeria. Therefore, my sincere condolence not only to the family but to all Nigerians for this loss of precious lives. And because I said one of the very best, because they belong to the special forces, and the Air Force have lost also their own officers and of course equipment, and the Army also have lost their personnel. So it is really, really a national tragedy. But of course, given the nature of military service, this is something that we should understand. But that notwithstanding, we should not allow it to demoralize our troops. And that is why I'm even using this opportunity to talk to some of our colleagues that brazenly share some of these unfortunate video clips, the propaganda piece by this criminal element, that these are Nigerians who have sacrificed their lives for our well-being and for our safety and security. Therefore, they should be treated with utmost respect and dignity, whether alive or dead. Having said that, so we should understand that actually whatever happened to the armed forces is a collective thing that happened to the Nigerian society, whether it is a good thing or bad thing as it happened some days back. So we have to look at it from that perspective. It is a loss of human resources as well as some other material resources. So it is very, very tragic and quite unfortunate. We just pray that may God, may their gentle soul rest in peace. And those who are injured, we pray for their speedy recovery. And I'm so happy the military have rose to the occasion. They were able to evacuate, the bodies of these gallant troops that lost their lives, and of course those that are wounded. Presently, they have been moved to military hospital, and the service, particularly the Chief of Army Staff, has gone there to not only commiserate with the troops, to ginger them up to, boost their morale. And they have indicated their willingness to continue with the fight against this criminal element that constitute a menace against the Nigerian society. Therefore, it is something that we all grieve about, but at the same time, we owe it as a point of duty to pray for them and continue to encourage and support them as they do the best they could to ensure that Nigeria is safe and secure.
But some bandits loyal to Dogogide have claimed responsibility for this crash. But Nigerian Air Force said no evidence the aircraft was shot down yet. Where do you stand on this?
Just like I mentioned earlier on, anybody with a discerning mind will understand that it was a propaganda piece. Just like I told you, there is every likelihood it is some elements of the Ansaru element of the Boko Haram, terrorist group. They were just taking undue advantage of the unfortunate incidents to, booster up their presence and all the rest of the thing. And in any case, if you look at the video, you will understand they were saying AK-47. The average clean range of an AK-47, I don't think is up to 800 meters. So, and aircraft, regardless of the make or type, it cannot fly as low as that for an AK-47 to, bring it down. So automatically it's a propaganda piece. What really happened was that the troops were ambushed, and of course, in the process of their evacuation, the aircraft unfortunately encountered what it encountered, and it has to crash. And we have to leave that for the investigation. And of course, by the time they get the black box and all the rest of the thing, it will determine actually what happened. But I can rest assure you it is far from what the propaganda, what the terrorists or the criminal elements want us to believe. They were not the ones responsible for bringing down the aircraft. It might be weather, it could be technical fault, but let's wait for the investigation to find out. So, but the truth is that it is not true that it was shut down. So people should not. And unfortunately, there is a particular individual who go about, in fact, he was the one who issued a statement even before the military issued a statement. So I begin to wonder, how did he come about such information? And so there are some, beyond the people that are perpetrating the criminal activities in terms of banditry and attacking people, there are those people that are in concert with them, such as the person that released that information, which is totally incorrect and inaccurate.
General, the Nigerian Air Force has vowed to pound the bandits. Does this not portray the military as being reactive rather than proactive?
Well, people will assume so, but it is not the way it is. If you look at the myriads of the security challenges in the country, they are complex, they are they are huge, and they kept on evolving as time goes on. And therefore, the military now are fully involved in joint operations. The Air Force, the Army, and the Navy, and other security agencies. So when things happen in that kind of thing, everybody brings what he or she has in stock to ensure the accomplishment of the task. So in this instance, the special forces were busy routing out these criminal elements, and they encountered ambush. They were trying to repel it, and of course, after repelling, they were able to gather their casualties and call for assistance and reinforcement and casualty evacuation, as it were. And quite unfortunately, the wounded were evacuated, and unfortunately, the aircraft, crashed. So it is not as if the armed forces or the security forces are resting on their own. They are doing the best they could under difficult circumstances. You need to understand also it is rainy season, and some of these areas, they are hardly accessible. In fact, it is to the credit of the armed forces, beyond their equipment holding, they evolve certain things using motorcycle to track these criminal elements. And of course, you cannot successfully deal with it without timely and accurate information. And that is why, if you even look at the release by the Nigerian Air Force, they are calling for continuous support. Because there is no way, no matter how it is, without the support of the people, the security forces could not achieve much or the desired effect. Therefore, people owe it as a point of duty to assist. And whoever is involved, in terms of giving information or cooperating or supporting these criminal elements or in any way assisting them, she or he should be exposed so that the right, they will be made to face the full wrath of the law. And more so, if you look at it, some of the state governments have even enacted some laws, making banditry and kidnapping almost, I think, capital offense. It's just that the political will to prosecute some of these people is not there. But that notwithstanding, we owe it as a point of duty to help and in dealing with this in dealing with these security challenges. And how do we do that? When you see something, you say something. Most of these criminal elements, they live along with the people. And some of our people, when I mean our people, Nigerian citizens, assist them. Sometimes inadvertently, because they don't even know, somebody will come with supposedly with the best of intention, asking questions, not knowing that he or she has ulterior motives till when they struck, then you understand. Take, for instance, we have had an instance just recently in Zamfara State when people, the bandit or the kidnappers dress in a hijab. Hijab is a Muslim dressing for, female. Under normal circumstances, there is this compassion and understanding when you see a female you would like to assist. I don't know the details, but the truth is that these are the kind of things. So somebody, for a man to go and wear hijab, definitely he must have procured the hijab from somewhere, either from a fellow man or from a lady. So people should have asked question, what do you need hijab for? Unless, of course, if you are in consent with them. So, but beyond that, there are so many. And the concept of this war economy, an economic system that revolves around complex situations, is real. There are some people that supply them with weapons, people supply them with logistics, people supply them with drugs, and so on and so forth. Where are they? Why don't people expose them? But beyond that, again, we have to think of how best will the government equip and support the security forces to do the best they can. So even if you give information, they can act on it immediately without being reactive, as you were saying. So basically, it's a collective responsibility. It is not just the military or the security forces alone. It's a collective responsibility. And I'm so happy. The new mantra is that we are moving towards a whole society approach to security, in dealing with security challenges in this country, in which each and every one of the components of Nigerian society has a role to play.
So let's talk about ambushes suffered by the military. What do we blame for this?
What do we blame for the ambush?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not getting you.
I'm talking about the ambushes suffered by the military. What do we blame for this?
Well, usually there could be a lot of reasons. I've just been talking about the issue of people, giving out information or disposition of the security, our military and security forces among the communities. And I have cited an example of a particular individual that was so eager to break the news, alleging that the bandits, brought down an aircraft, as if he was there or as if they planned the attack with him and so on. So basically that is it. And I have made mention of the fact that there is war economy. War economy, it includes informants, people that, give out information either knowingly or unknowingly to these criminal elements. And whenever I can tell you, one of the things that was shocking to me when I was deployed in the Northeast way back in 2014, when we flew in from Yola at Maiduguri International Airport. That time it was only, the military that flew in and out of Maiduguri. And I saw someone, being questioned. And I was wondering why. And of course, the next thing was that individual, his job, he was a Boko Haram member, that his job, he had been stationed at the airport. His job was to report, arrival or takeoff of military aircraft so that he can warn. And of course, in most instances, even in the Northeast and, Northwest and North Central, in most instances, they have even nicknames for some of the military, columns and equipment. By the time they mention Konkuru, definitely it must be either an APC or an RPG. And APC or EMRA. So the criminal elements are being warned about that, and they are being assisted with such information, to plan against the military. And in these instances, they tend to, deceive them. If, for instance, there is an attack towards the eastern part, then you will receive another call that it was in the western part. And by the time you are trying to respond, actually they are either in the southern or, in northern flank. So that is what has always been happening. And unfortunately, all these things are happening with the knowing or tacit approval of some unscrupulous elements in the society. So you can blame it on a lot of factors. And of course, if you are planning for ambush, you have to be in a vantage position. You have to look at a position where you are supposedly adversary is in a weaker position to respond. Possibly, you select a terrain that is not attainable, and even if you ambushed him, he or she might not be able to escape. There are so many other things, killing zone, and I don't want to go into the details. But for this one, I cannot say precisely unless we await the outcome of the investigation, which I'm sure will be made known in due course to know exactly what happened. But I think the most important thing here, we should be in the state of mourning, having lost these precious lives. May their soul continue to rest in peace, and encourage and support their families, so that they can bear this irreparable loss with so much fortitude and, bearing in mind that they did not die in vain. They died in the course of defending the territorial integrity of this country, in the course of defending humanity to ensure that we live in peace and, in peace in this country. So basically that's what should be occupying us. But of course, the military and the security forces and the authorities should be concerned actually in investigating and unraveling the circumstances that brought that, so that lessons are learned, so that we can avoid future reoccurrence. But most importantly, there should be constructive engagement of the society, particularly the host community where these criminal elements have in it.
Talking about avoiding future recurrence, this resurgence of attacks in Niger State have been blamed by the governor on illegal mining. Why is this brewing so much violence?
Well, if you look at it, it is not just Niger State. Even in Zamfara State, with the discovery of the gold deposit, you can see the conflicts have been protracted. And simply because there are certain vested interests, including foreigners. And unless we look at it critically and ensure that we sanitize the mining of these precious mineral resources, we'll continue to have problems. And Why? Because people look at it as a means of livelihood, so, but it is not even that. There are some people that are taking and do advantage of it, particularly foreigners, arming groups, and so the conflict is ongoing. And we need to address it as part of addressing the root causes of these security challenges being experienced. But most importantly, I always say so, that we should improve also in the issue of good governance. Let's look at all the security challenges. They are happening in a particular community, in a particular local government, in a particular state. Is the local government system working? So bulk of the security challenges, when they happen, it is either the state or the federal government that is to be blamed. What happened to the local government? So I call on the state governors, especially that we have newly elected ones, they should please ensure that the local government system is up and doing by ensuring its autonomy. So that some of the security challenges that are local, they can easily be dealt with without taking them to, lumping them on the state government, and the state government that is always overwhelmed, calling on the federal government. And of course, the federal government in itself is being overstretched, because you cannot pretend all the, nook and crisis of this country. So the people need to give a helping hand. And they cannot do that if the local government is not working optimally.
So a new administration is in place, and of course the country cannot afford to be having this kind of killings. What do you think should be done to address this head on?
Well, I have just mentioned one aspect, the issue of the local government. Of course, you have to look at the issue of, one of the staying powers of the Nigerian society. Even though they kept on saying they are trying to remove population as among the indices of, national power. But the most important thing is the human resources that God has blessed us with. To what extent are we effectively utilizing these human resources? That's the big question. And more so, if you look at the total population of Nigeria, assumingly 200 million, out of that 200 million, almost 65 or to 72%, they are all youth. To what extent have you constructively, engaged the youth so that they can, be, contributing to national development positively? And if you look at the statistics also, bulk of the security challenges, are being perpetrated by the younger ones in the society, simply because of some reasons. Agreed, you cannot give an excuse for a criminal, because I'm yet to see a retired thief that he said, oh, I have done this, so let me retire today. Oh, I have been deprived, let me go and steal so that I can set up a legitimate business. I haven't seen. So a criminal is always a criminal. Yes, but that notwithstanding, we should create an enabling environment in which we will engage our teeming population, particularly the younger ones. We are living in very difficult times, where families are finding it very difficult to take care of their loved ones. So definitely moral values and standards are being compromised. People are getting into crimes and what have you. So let us address these socio-economic challenges and then improve in good governance, create employment opportunities, and at the same time, make sure that Nigerians are properly sensitized on the importance of contributing their best to ensure that Nigeria is a secure society. It might not necessarily that you go into, you take up employment in the armed forces. No, even an average citizen, by seeing something and saying something, by reporting things to the appropriate authorities, and by you living up to standard of an average citizen, because it is not just enough to enjoy the privileges of being a citizen, there are also associated responsibilities and civic duties. So these are the issues. But of course, the government has to take a leading role in some of these things. And we hope and pray that these issues will be addressed so that we can be able to, we should not be able to have those who are involved in criminality will not have any excuses. Just like the police used to say, do not encourage the criminals. So we should not encourage those with low moral standard to be involved into this kind of thing, or people should lure them in. And I can also give you an example. We are talking about the local government system earlier on. Quite a number of people, what they need actually is not even much. Somewhere where I came from, 50,000 naira is more than enough to set someone to start a business, legitimate one that he can take care of his family. But unfortunately, where do you get the 50,000 naira? If you want to go to bank for a loan, you know, the interest rate is very high. And in fact, there are people that, you know, will take and do advantage of these people. You know, particularly the bandits, they buy tricycles, they buy motorcycles, and at the same time, in return for certain things like information and what have you, even set people up in business. And the government should come into play so that such people that need such things are given, you know, without, you know, the criminal elements inducing them, you know, to commit untoward things. So there are so many things: improving good governance, you know, ensuring the local government system work, creating an enabling environment where there is justice, you know, an average person who is, well, so to speak, that an average person will have a greater sense of belonging. If anybody touches him, he has a recourse to the arbiter, which is the judiciary. So, you know, strengthening the institutions also is equally very important, alongside all those things that I've mentioned, and there are so many more.
Thank you so much, General. I've been speaking with a strategic communications expert and former Director of Public Relations, Nigerian Army, retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka. Thank you so much for your perspectives on the program tonight. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, too.
Now, let's take a short break. And when